Gotta make another couple $100,000 a month. Know I can do it, I just gotta stay in the hunt. Grab some snacks and some fluids and a couple hands of blunts. I play through the fourth quarter, I don't play in the punt. Gotta make.
Welcome back to the Entreprenudist podcast. This is your host, Randolph Love III, chartered financial consultant, business owner, and certified life coach. I specialize in business coaching and startup coaching. But in order to get that right, you got to get your life right. In most instances, if you're interested in getting a free consultation, go to rightlifecoach.com. Today, I have on the show PhD candidate in economics, Audrieanna Burgin. On the show, we talk about what it took to get to the level of education she's at. We talk about what it means to be a research scientist, which she is. We talk about her company, in which she helps a lot of business owners with the analytical side, the math side. And we talk about her role as an executive pastor and how that all ties in and works together. And what came first, the chicken or the egg? Without further delay, PhD candidate, Audrieanna Burgin. Audrieanna Burgin, thank you so much for coming on the show.
No problem. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you don't mind, introduce yourself to my audience and let them know what you do.
Okay, so hi, Entreprenudist audience, and thank you all so much for having me today. So my name is Audrieanna Burgin. Me and Randy go way back. Mm-hmm. And I am currently a PhD candidate in economics at Florida State University. So most of my background is in economics. Right now, I'm a research scientist for a company called Zern. Some of your kids may use Zern in their classroom. And I really work in data analytics and economics. So in 2018, I actually launched my own business consulting firm called Visions Global Consulting. You can look us up at myvisionsglobal.com. And basically, I'm morphing it more into like a data science, data analytics company where we pretty much show entrepreneurs the economic principles they need to include in how they run their businesses. I also have a graphic designing branch of that, where we make sure your branding is cohesive and consistent. So I'm definitely more in the entrepreneur and the entrepreneur spaces, where I still do work in 9 to 5, but I'm definitely all about that entrepreneur grind, that second job grind, and just making sure we all have something passionate to hold on to that's ours. I think that's important.
Now, you can't be throwing new vocabulary words at me and expect me not to ask. Intrepreneur, is that something that's a known word, or did you just hit it up on the spot, or what does that mean, intrapreneur?
Yeah, that's a known word. So think of an entrepreneur being someone that's passionate and goal-oriented for themselves and their own company. An entrepreneur is someone that's passionate and goal-oriented within somebody else's, corporation or nonprofit or whatever. So they take that passion, they take that same passion and they apply that, to someone else's company. So whether they have aspirations of, sometimes you hear people say, I want to be the CEO, I want to be the CFO, I want to, make this function of this company better, and that's still a very viable way to make money, but I do still feel like you should always have something of your own, because the one thing that entrepreneurs sometimes miss is, you can't transfer a job to your child. You can't transfer. That doesn't necessarily always create generational wealth. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. So
when you're an entrepreneur and you birthed a business yourself, you created, a legacy that you can pass on. So that's the difference. That's why I think you should always have something of your own. However, there's nothing wrong with the job. And some people do work there, industries that will always have people or non-entrepreneur minded people in them. And I don't want us to necessarily make those sectors feel bad. Like we need our medical providers, we need our doctors, we need our lawyers, we need our accountants, not all of those people are going to be entrepreneurs. So yeah, that's kind of something that I still work with, because my point is, okay, if you're not going to be an entrepreneur, that doesn't mean you can't have that mindset and make sure you get every dollar you're worth. Make sure you're on the fast track. Make sure you get your promotions on time. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it's just something else that I think about. Like, we have this thing where it's kind of like, and I know it's not for everybody, but it's like, okay, just because I'm working someone else's job doesn't mean I can't have goals. Or working for someone else, rather, doesn't mean I can't have goals. Doesn't mean I still don't have to sit right here. There are people who make 6-figure salaries, or 7-figure salaries at other corporations. And I also study people like, some people we may know famously, like even Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon created his Wild and Out platform that was his own. Even though he didn't own it, we know he made some mistakes there, but he ended up kind of selling off the ownership, I think. So he had this baby he was kind of creating that should have been his, but then he also, had other jobs. He had Fox, he had Nickelodeon. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. So, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is, even if you're working a 9-to-5, which once again, that we're not, this podcast isn't to downgrade 9-to-5ers. It's to say, if you feel disappointed about where you're at in your life, there are options, and it's possible your disappointment is coming from working for somebody else. But what a lot of people don't realize is, if you are deciding to start your business, one of the most common forms and the most effective forms of funding is income that you're getting from your job.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Have you seen that with the people that you work with?
No, absolutely. Like me and a couple of my friends who are kind of in both spaces right now and haven't gone into full-time entrepreneurship. And let me tell you this, there have been times in my life where I was a full-time entrepreneur, where maybe I was in between jobs, maybe I was taking a break. When I worked in academia as a professor, I was on contract. So sometimes in the summer I didn't teach. And that business that I had put so much time in was my livelihood. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I have been 100% entrepreneur at certain points. However, I consider my current job to be my number one best paying client.
Yeah.
And that's a client, because guess what? I'm at will. I can wake up tomorrow and decide I don't want to go in, and I don't have to.
Beautiful.
So that's kind of like the mindset that I take. And one of my mentors told me one time, set up your finances, set up your life in a way that you can walk away from unhappy spaces,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really what we're trying to get people to see, is not whether or not you're a business owner. It's that set your life up so that you don't sit somewhere, for 25, 30 years just for a pension, have other avenues, multiple streams of income, to where you can say, hey, this doesn't serve me anymore. And then you don't go into, like you're saying, more of those despair or those depression states where, oh, I have to stay here. No, you don't have to do anything, so you can make your life whatever that is. And I think that's the part of the entrepreneurial mindset that's so attractive, particularly for millennials like me and you. It's that I can make my life what I want it to be.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're kind of pushing. No matter what it is, you can make your life what you want it.
Oh yeah, I'm the pusher. I'm the entrepreneur pusher on the corner. So
yeah,
PhD candidate. Now, whenever I think most people hear the term candidate, they're thinking about somebody running for political office. Is there a similarity in the way that people who are PhD, and I believe that stands for philosophical doctor? Is that what it is? Is there a similarity?
So the difference between me and someone who just says they're a PhD is I'm what is considered all but dissertation. So all but dissertation means I've passed every exam, I've passed every course. My dissertation topic is approved, but it's not completed yet. So I'm in the final stages of my dissertation. So candidate just basically lets people know, like, I ain't new to this, like I'm almost done. and it's more so for like employment opportunities. So if you have an employer that wants to hire you, they want to kind of know where you are in your doctorate phase. So basically, PhD candidate means I'm certified by my school that I'm almost done.
So does the candidate part mean that there's a group of people voting to say that you are approved?
My final dissertation has to be approved by a committee of about 5 to 6 people. So they help me formulate it. They're available to me throughout the whole process. And then I have to stand before them and defend my ideas. So it's a doctorate of philosophy. So with a doctorate of philosophy, you want to be a philosopher. So you have to add something new to whichever field you want your doctorate in. So that means I have to come up with a unique idea that I feel contributes to the field of economics. And then I have to explain to people, what I came up with, whatever that research was. And then they provide me feedback and they approve me or deny me. So I have to defend my thoughts, which if you think about philosophy, that's what they do all the time. What do you think? Well, what do you think? Well, this is why I think that. So it's that type of thing. So candidate just means I'm up, for graduation as soon as I finish. It's self-paced, but it pretty much just lets, like I said, employers know that I've done like 90% of the work.
Got it. And because I want to just a little more time on it, because I think it's real cool. Like if I could snap my fingers and get doctor on the front of my name, I would. If I could pay a couple $1,000 and get it, I probably would. Because people give you a little bit more, a little bit more pomp and circumstance. So this committee of people that's assisting you, is it like all of them got to agree, or just a majority of them got to agree that you are worthy?
Pretty much all of them. And I'll say this it's not going to be like new information. I kind of have their feedback the closer I get to, the big day. So it's not like I'm going to, the chances of me finally defending it and them like turning it down are very, very low. I normally have their feedback multiple times before then. So it's an area that we disagree on. I have an answer good enough, for why by that day. So I'm going to be fully prepared. And it's people listen to me more. It definitely opens up doors because they're like, oh, what. And I'll say this, since me and you are both, African Americans, is 1% of PhDs awarded in economics go to Black females. Definitely take a lot of pride in working with several organizations that push African Americans in quantitative fields. So when we say quantitative field, that means there's a mathematical or statistical component to that field. You see what I'm saying? So kind of like when you hear people say STEM, but it's not quite STEM because there's a social aspect to economics that we all talk about all the time, like socioeconomic issues and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely push. There's an organization called the Statically Collective that is pushing, Black females in public policy and economics and data science and finance and stuff like that. Because, even at FSU, the only Black female was like 3 years ahead of me, and I ended up being the only Black person that year to pass doctoral examinations. So, there was one other African-American male, but he didn't make it. So it's not a lot of Black people coming up this high in economics. And it's definitely something that I help with, even in my business. Once people are kind of opened up to how economics is really all around them, they become more accustomed to trying new things. And then, let's just take 1 minute to talk about math. We're on an entrepreneurial podcast, like, we have to really step up our math game, just all around, because it's stopping a lot of people from entering certain fields, just that math game. And it's like I tell people all the time, it don't make no sense to make no money you can't count, or paperwork you don't understand, like people. That's how so many people build wealth and try and build generational wealth just to have it squandered or almost stolen from them because you haven't educated yourself in any kind of way. And that doesn't necessarily mean go get a PhD. That means, take a business course or, to watch a podcast, listen to a podcast like this, and get all of the information you can, because we really have to step our math game up. So I just wanted to add that in there, because it's quantitative fields out here, like, statistics and economics and stuff that our people, particularly Black people, can't enter into because we're scared of math.
What's your definition of economics?
Oh, that's a good one. My definition of economics is the way people arrive at their decision making. So economics pretty much studies behaviors. Think about the market and everything right now. They're like, well, economic activity is down. They're studying the behaviors. Well, economic activity is down right now because we're all, or at one time we were all stuck at home. There are people right now still stuck at home. So they say, economic activity has declined. So my definition of economics is the way people arrive at decisions, the study of almost behavioral science. And some people might say it's supply and demand, but yes, supply and demand is behaviors. Like, how much do you want of what I have? You see what I'm saying?
See, and I just heard you say what some people say, and because I was gonna wait for you to finish it up, but some people, I would say most people, because even when I think about economics, I think about supply and demand, and I think about math. But you just said that it's more so about the study of behavior, which makes sense because supply and demand is going to determine the behavior of the people involved in that chain of consumer, producer, and bank. And then math is going to determine is the way that most people should make their decisions. A lot of people make decisions off emotion, but math is the way you should make your decisions. Prior to you getting into the doctoral part of your studies, prior to you taking this on as your specialty, was supply and demand what you stopped at when you thought about economics?
Absolutely. I mean, because, at UNF, I actually started out, it's going to sound crazy, but it makes more sense now. I actually started out in psychology, right? And I was taking psychology classes at UNF. Then I went into business. When I went into business at UNF, University of North Florida, I had to take a principles of economics class. They pretty much make anybody that gets a business degree, you take one lower level economics class, and I really fell in love with it. But yeah, that's pretty much, what we covered that semester was supply and demand. But so then I was like, I really, really like this subject, and I took more and took more until I ended up getting both degrees. I got a business degree, a business management degree, and an economics degree. But economics helped me think more critically. It was so analytical. It was so, we're gonna do this. We're in class. We're gonna do this case study, and we're just gonna talk about, all the different ways this could go, like all the different, choices this person can make. You see what I'm saying? So, and really that analytical critical thinking helped me so much in like a lot of different areas of my life, just thinking on a higher level, and even a lot of business owners, they're trying to make money. And a lot of times I have to make my clients stop. Let's go all the way back to the beginning and figure out your why. Like, why should someone buy this? Why are you doing this? Why this product? Why is this product coming first? Like, if you get all of those whys together and you write it up, bam, that's your basic level, business or strategic plan, So, but economics helped me think that way. And then when I got to the PhD level, of course they kicked it up a higher notch. But when we first got there, like the first thing we started doing was what we would do with statistical programs they made us do by hand, which again comes down to math. So they would give us a case study and like a system of equations, and each equation was a decision. And by hand, I would have to mathematically show them which decision was optimal for the person. You see what I'm saying?
And I heard you say us. I imagine at the philosophical doctorate level, us isn't a lot. Well, us is what your class is. Your typical doctorate class. Would you say how many people would you say on average was in there with you?
On average, they took about 15 to 20 people per year. Some programs do more than that. They might take 20 to 50 and the higher level programs. For FSU, the success rate after the first year is 50%. So it was 16 of us, 8 of us made it through the first year. And normally after that, about 70% are passed. So if you start with a cohort, that's what we call it, cohort of about 16 people, between 6 to 8 of them will actually get their doctorate.
So half get voted off. Do y'all have like a ceremony where you put their names in a bucket?
No. The first year is pretty much just examinations again. So we went through 3 semesters of work our first year. At the end of the first year, you have 2 attempts to take a paper exam where they have, economic questions on there. And it was very stressful because think about somebody teaching you for 9 months and giving you an exam that has 4 questions on it, and you have to get 3 of them right.
Wow. And when you say 3 right, it's not like multiple choice. It's like long form answers.
It's long form. Long form. So it was like the most stressful time of my life, but I got through it. And, and I say this like with God, because it's not easy out here, especially when you're African American. And my professors and my teachers did the best that they could do, but I can't say that I dealt with no racism. You know what I'm saying? So it was definitely those aspects there as well. And FSU has really, really tried hard to support students through diversity. Like they have like groups and, organizations that are committed to it. However, what somebody has grown up in and what they have made their mind up to think about you can't necessarily do anything about, So I had to overcome a lot of that as well. So, that first year was really, really rough, but, I got through it and I kind of make it my mission. Like I mentor a couple of young ladies in economics right now that are looking to get their PhDs that are African American. And, we talk monthly and stuff, just trying to help them, just trying to be the change really and stuff.
Be the change you seek.
Yeah, be the change you seek. I tell people that all the time. Like earlier this year before COVID, I got on a plane, went up to DC. And like I was talking about earlier, like the Sadie Collective, they had gathered 250 young women that wanted to go into economics. And I went up there for like 4 or 5 days and mentor as many of them as I could, And it's not often. And I guess now as I get, higher in my career and in my studies and stuff, now I'm kind of being the mentors that, me and you were kind of looking for when we were younger. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's when I got there, I ended up having to talk to some of my peers because they were actually kind of complaining like they were going to the conference for what they could get. So they were looking for like people higher than us to kind of be there and for us to kind of get mentored, because we're still in our early 30s. We still have a lot to learn. But when I got there, I realized, wow, I really came here to pour into these high schoolers, to pour into these undergrads. You know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like perspective was different. So when I left there, so once I got that awareness while I was there, when I left and they reached out to me and a couple of them reached out to me, I already had that awareness. So I jumped on it right away to kind of make that connection and make them feel comfortable continuously reaching out to me and stuff, which they have done. And so I think that's part of it too. Like we can't always be so worried about what we're going to get. And it's something really, really powerful in giving as well.
Absolutely. It's for the well-informed, the ones who give the most might even be the most selfish because when you know how the world works and how energy works, the more you give with a sincere, genuine heart, the more you get back. And I know that, and I give a lot because I want a lot. So you mentioned FSU, Florida State University. Is there a reason why you chose that to be the school that helped you reach this upper echelon of education?
At the time, I really didn't realize it was as good of a decision as it was, honestly. For them, I really felt like for something, I knew it was going to be a lot of pressure. So I didn't want to go too far away from home because I knew it was going to be a lot of pressure and I needed some level of support. And also, I mean, there are not a lot of economic programs still left, you know, at the PhD level in Florida, unfortunately. UF program was my top choice, and they closed literally that year for funding reasons. So that's another issue as well. Then
ironic,
you know.
The economics department closed for funding.
Yeah.
All right.
And then UNF doesn't have one, so it was just proximity, and also, you know, people complain, not complain, but you know, one hurdle for people not to go to graduate school is also you know, money. So I also didn't want to do the out of state kind of tuition kind of thing, and you know, and take on too much that way, even though I ended up, you know, being funded and stuff like that. But, and that's one thing we can kind of talk about real quick since we kind of talk about economics but you know, I really, really saw my PhD as like the first investment, you know, I was going to make it myself. So I knew I would have some out of pocket expenses, and I knew I would have a very large portion of it funded. So I was a teaching assistant, so I got like an actual employment check, and then most of my tuition was waived. So it was
because
really,
of the in-state.
No, because I was a teaching assistant. You know what I'm saying? So it's
okay,
like
so you got a check, and you got a big part of the fee for the tuition waived because of your contribution.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're teaching, you know, the same classes that professors are teaching, but of course they're not paying us what professors are paying us. So it's kind of like, for the cheap labor, we'll waive the tuition. And some of you listening may be familiar with like research assistants and all of that. That's all kind of like the same thing. But I really, really saw my education as an investment in myself, you know, and I actually did my own numbers of how much I would need to put into it, my PhD, how much I expected to make when I got out, you know, and kind of span that and realize like I was pretty much gonna like triple my money. You see what I'm trying to say? Like the money that I was going to put into getting a PhD, just from my salary and the other opportunities I expected to get upon my graduation, just in the first like 5 to 10 years after graduating, I would expect to triple my money or triple my investment. So it's not that we should be scared of graduate school. It's that we need to be realistic and make sure that the degrees that we choose and the schools that we choose as far as cost-wise, that can actually make you a profit. Like, think about your degree as an investment, that you want to make a return on your investment. Make sure the return is there. You know, don't be scared to go to school. Just make sure the return is there.
Absolutely. And it's backing up what you said. And, you know, I truly believe you were making, of course, I know that your education made you a little bit tighter at what you do, tight as in good, but I've known you for over a decade. Yeah. And you've always been the mature one. and you always would think about things big picture wise. And you only contributed to conversations where you were contributing something of value and not just filling silence. And that's what I noticed. And that we kind of had the same thing, because a lot of times you and I, from my recollection, we rarely like just talk to each other, because what was understood didn't need to be said. At least that's the way I took it. Because we would be in a group, you know how, and just so people know, the way me and Audrieanna know each other is we work inbound sales. And then they would have meetings. Everybody would be talking. I would look across the table. Audrieanna just looking and listening. I'm just looking and listening, and everybody's talking, right? So
yeah, right. No, you're right.
And so that was one of the things. But now that you're at this level, I like what you're saying, because your decisions were based off of, all right, I know one of the biggest factors that one of my big barriers is funding. It's not my ambition. It's not my capacity to learn. It's money. Okay, so instead of me going out of state, I'm going to stay in state so I can get the in-state lower costs. Okay, instead of me just doing another job that might pay me more, but it won't add the same value as me being not research assistant. What was the term that you used?
Teaching assistant. Yeah.
I'm going to do it that way. And it's once again because of the math. It's not emotional. It's the math. The most successful people are doing math. And that's why I've come across some people who, and I'm bringing this up because you brought it up, and it's a part of your story. We're going to get to that. A lot of people equate God to emotion, when really and truly God is more associated to math, in my opinion. So tell me this. What's your definition of a scientist?
My definition of a scientist, a scientist is someone who literally, I hate to use big words, but almost in a methodology type of way puts together the pieces. Like, think about that old school scientist, like almost like chemists. They're just throwing everything in a pot. So I think about it like that way in my head. But a scientist is going to also provide you like a method, like a plan to get to the same result, So it's kind of like we have this end result in our head. How do we get there? A scientist is going to get you there. You know what I'm saying? And it could be in multiple different fields, like me, I'm actually a research scientist. So I do a lot of research planning and multi-year research methodologies. I manage partnerships. So I make sure all of these people can get together and get my employer the result that my employer wants. You see what I'm saying? You think about data scientists. They're doing the same thing. They're doing algorithms. They're doing machine learning. They're doing all of this stuff to this data to get you to a certain result. Medical scientists, they need a certain result. So they're planning it out. They're mapping it out. From pharmaceuticals or whatever they need, working out, whatever you need to help you get to a certain result.
So and I think most people, when you think about scientists, you think about Bill Nye pouring solutions, a green solution into a blue solution, and then smoke popping out, right? So the two similarities, would you say the constant is, y'all doing two different things as scientists? You're a research scientist, and I guess they're called a chemical scientist, I guess. Would you say the same thing is that y'all have just that method that y'all never depart from? Is that what makes a true scientist somebody who, all right, let me back up. Before you start your research, do you come up with a hypothesis, an educated guess first?
Exactly. Exactly. Like, you have your questions, you have your hypothesis, you have your plan, your models, don't forget like models, that methodology and that modeling type of point. So when you start to say things like scientists, this person is going to be an expert in that field, which means they're going to be comfortable or like masterful in multiple different type of methods and modeling and different things like that. So it's almost like when they have that question or that problem or that result that we want to get to, they are well versed in all these different ways on how to get there, so they can actually show you or help you find the right one. Because as we know, every model doesn't match every problem or research question or whatever you're trying to do. So they help you get there, So like me, I've been doing research for like 8 to 10 years. So when you bring me a research problem, particularly in my field, which is economics, and also I do educational attainment. So education and economics, like I know that, I know who the main fields are. I know who the big authors are. I know what the big models are. I know what research is coming out, what research has been done. You know what I'm saying? So whatever field you're in, like you're going to be the expert in that and how to get, the right path, the right plan.
Okay, so I just heard you say something All right. So for scientists,
Mhm.
because I know usually somebody who's doing that what we usually think about scientists, not the data scientists, is educated guess and educated question synonymous in the scientific field?
Educated questions.
And the
I would
reason
say
why I
that.
asked, because I heard you say that question, and it made me think, yeah, people are coming to people like you because they have a question, and then
Mhm.
you run the data points and present them with an answer to that question. And
Mhm.
but when usually, like when they were teaching us in school, they would say
Mhm.
hypothesis, educated guess.
Mhm.
Based off your experience, is educated guess and educated question the difference between uh, what we know of as hypothesis, educated guess, and educated question is what you do? You answer the question, and the other type of scientist answers the guess, or they confirm or are denied. What's the word? What's the opposite of confirm? Not confirm. Either they confirm or they disprove the guess.
Yeah, yeah. I would say they're related and not quite the same. So,
Okay.
and what I consider a hypothesis to be when they say educated guess is almost like educated answer. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, come on,
Yeah.
PhD. Give it to me. All right, go ahead.
So that guess is what you think the answer is to the educated question. That's the difference.
So it really, because so it really, if I was, and we if we were looking at a hierarchy of things,
Uh-huh.
educated question would be above educated guess.
Yeah, so educated question is part A. That's the first thing. Is like what's going on, and then your hypothesis is, well, I think such and such is going on, and then you run the data to confirm or deny your answer. Like you're trying to prove that what you thought or what you guessed was right.
Mm. See, now
So
that's deep because, and it makes sense.
yeah, it makes
When,
more sense,
yeah,
right?
the higher that I go with my education, that's when they add a new layer to it. So it makes sense that in high school they were starting us off at the guess part.
Mhm, mhm.
Mm.
Because when they start you off at the guest part, or however, your instructor taught it, they're just really trying to get you familiar with being in these different types of spaces, and they're trying to show you, look at all the different things you can do. So when you think about all the different things you can do, it's kind of like, you're at the end of something. You see what I'm saying? So,
Mm-hmm.
but I take a step back as a research scientist. We go all the way back to the beginning. Particularly, think about like all the research that's come out all this time. There are decades of economic research out there, decades of education research out there. So we have to go back to the question and figure out what's not been done or what else can be asked. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot more new under the sun as far as the digital space, but that core economics, core education space has been turned over and over and over. So, you got to go back and figure out what do you want to ask. So, yeah, again, when I look at research, my hypothesis is like, look, I think the data is going to tell me this, but we have to get to that answer. Now, when the data statistically tells us something at a certain level of significance, then that becomes like, okay, this is what it is based on this data.
Nice. So this is where, because I'm assuming when you write down your hypothesis, it's not just something that you keep to yourself. You share it with your peers, and your the people that inside of your, not just your clients, but also the people that's inside of your research firm. How often do you prove that your educated guess, a graduate degree guess,
Mhm.
is wrong?
I would say maybe about, and I hate to say wrong. Sometimes we say like insignificant, but it's the same thing. I would say.
Oh yeah, see that's the thing. I want my people that listen to me to know the layman terms and the people who actually use it. So we say wrong, scientists say insignificant, which, like you said,
or like I'll say, like, this is statistically significant. You see what I'm saying? So when you say something like statistically significant, it says two things. It's based on the data, like this data, and then it's based off of this method. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I want people to understand, like, this applies to your business. Like, every piece of information you have or you collect on your customer, on your client, on your audience is data. Whether it's their email, whether it's their age, their date of birth, their location, how many kids they have, are they married or single? Like, all of that is data. The last time they made a purchase, you know, how much was that purchase? Do they like bonus items? Like, everybody in their phone right now has seen the word, you know, do you accept these cookies? Like, that's data. You know, they want your location.
Man, some people out there are cooking monsters. They cooking monsters. They got cookies on everybody's website.
Exactly. So, you know, they're collecting the data. And in my data analyst side, as I build out the data analytics portion of Visions Global even more, like, I can't even do some of the data collecting I wanted with some clients just to kind of get started in that area even more because they weren't collecting enough data. Like, people just want to sell things so quickly, they don't even ask their customer really who they are, so that you can kind of get so that you can build your company or whatever, your service or your product, whatever it is, so you can build your company a brand.
And that's why I'm asking you, because now you didn't give me the answer yet, but I'm not gonna let you get away without giving me. Let me just say this first, so you can see where I'm going with it. A lot of people shoot from the hip, just like you said. Mm-hmm. They go off of, they ask themselves that question, and then they come up with their hypothesis, and instead of checking the data points, they go ahead and move. Now, if somebody like Audrieanna, a PhD candidate that already has significant, you see how I just brought that back, that already has significant degrees, not insignificant, can make a guess, and after she does all of the data and runs all of her experiments, could still turn out to be wrong. What makes it think that you, someone who really doesn't know how to run those methodologies that she does, can just shoot from the hip just off the guess?
Exactly. So
tell me, how often have you come into where you like, man, I know this the right answer. Hey, FSU, what's up? This the right answer, and then come out it be wrong?
I'll say about 25% of the time.
And that 25% is a killer for small businesses.
Yeah, I would have to give it 1 in 4. I'm like, I know this is going to work. And, you know, my STATA program or whatever program I'm using at the time is just not giving me anything. Now, sometimes when I get an insignificant or a no, one thing one of my mentors told me one time, I was telling him, I said, I'm running this data and it's not giving me a story. Sometimes I say, you know, all data tells a story. That's kind of like something we talk about. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I'm running this data, it's not giving me a story, or it's not telling the story that I assume. Now, remember, when I say story I assume, I'm talking about my hypothesis. Mm-hmm. And he's like, maybe there's no story there.
Ooh, it went straight to DVD. They not releasing this story in a movie screen. Go ahead. All right. So he said maybe the story ain't there, and then what did he say after that?
So I was like, well, what do you think? And then he gave me other ways to look at it. So a lot of times when I don't really see a story, you know, I go back. And that's something that business owners don't want to do. They don't want to go back to the drawing board. So I have to go back to the drawing board. Like, one thing I might ask myself is, does this data actually answer the question? Like, am I doing the right matchup of variables? You know, is my data in the right form? You know, all different types of things could be wrong with that. Like, maybe I need to add newer data or get older data, or, the age of the person isn't answering the question right. Something like that is normally wrong, like in the foundation of the plan. So I normally go back. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes the story just isn't there.
Mm. So if somebody hires your firm
Mm-hmm.
and the story isn't there, I think I know what you're going to say, but why have you found a story isn't there? Is it because it's not enough data points, or what?
Normally with small business owners, they're definitely not collecting enough data. So again, when I say story's not there, let's say maybe my client thinks that all of their customers are 50 and older. Like my target client is 50 and older. They love the jewelry that I sell, right? And I'm like, okay, all your clients are 50 and older and they love the jewelry that you sell. Okay, so that means, normally, maybe they're going to buy their jewelry earlier in the day because they're older. Maybe they're going to sleep early. Maybe they're shopping on Sunday. You see what I'm saying? Maybe we have all these questions around that, and then the data doesn't show that. I had a client one time who just was absolutely sure, that her client was like a 50 and up, woman, just from the people she had met. And her actual client ended up being a lot younger than that. Like her target client ended up being a lot younger than that. And then we really found out because sometimes, you might want to do a phone survey or something like that. So she kind of did a phone survey. We also found out that some of the older women were buying the clothes for like their daughters and buying the jewelry for like their daughters and stuff. So that's what data, can really kind of tell you, what's the average age, not who you think it is, not what you think, but actually, looking through your data really hard. Because one thing I've learned with business owners is our recollection is not always that good.
Nah, man, I got the best business in the world, man. I do $1 million in sales every day.
So our recollection is not always that good. And really just putting systems in place that can collect data for you is great. And I hate to say this, but I really sometimes pull my clients from doing don't just do Cash App. Don't just do things like that. Like sometimes you need more sophisticated payment processing systems that a lot of times we don't want to pay for, but those systems collect data.
And for the people listening to you who's saying, why does it matter if my customer is 50 plus or 50 below? And why does it matter that even the ones that are 50 plus are buying it for their kids or somebody younger than them? The reason why it matters is, in my opinion, and then you can add yours too, Audrieanna, is you want to know so you can get the biggest bang for your buck, whether you're doing online marketing or over TV. I know a lot of the stuff that I watch, just because, I grew up, and when I say I grew up, after school, I would go to my grandparents' house, right? Before my mother got off work. Mm-hmm. And so I would watch a lot of their programs. I still hang out with my granddaddy on a regular basis. A lot of the stuff I watch, guess what commercials I see? Reverse mortgages and depends. That's because they know their audience. They know the majority of their audience who's watching are the type of person that's going to be looking for a reverse mortgage, or the type of person that might have a bladder constitution problems. So in your opinion, why is it so important to know if your customer is 50 plus or below 50, or a woman or a man or whatever?
Yeah, it's pretty much that. It's targeting, advertising and promotion. When you're a small business owner, every dollar of you want every dollar of ads, promotion, marketing to hit. And basically, if you don't know who your target customer is, you're almost out here just working blind. You're just trying stuff, or like we said, you're winging it. You don't have any real information. You're winging it. And then not only just advertising, but look into the future of your company. You can cater your product and your services to who's actually buying it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe if you find like let's say your customer or your client is older and you're in fashion, well, what you produce next might be tailored to an older customer. Maybe you need to discontinue items that are not selling because you realize that's not what your target, your target or your niche really, really wants. And sometimes we can stretch ourselves too thin trying to have a business that caters to everyone versus just starting with a more targeted audience. And then as your audience grows, you can grow your product, your line, your services even bigger. Yeah, but it's also for the future of your company. Like if all of your clients, you find out they're mostly male, they really like your product. Well, maybe your next perfume scent won't have so much floral in it, or maybe you have a shampoo and maybe it'll be in a more masculine bottle, So it's also how to tailor what you want to make that customer or that client happy.
Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people going out of business just don't realize it's just because they were making the wrong guess.
Exactly. You're making the wrong guess. And again, start small. Like just try and make sure you have the basic stuff like their age. Maybe you send out a survey to your customer base. We need email campaigns and stuff. You need a way to communicate with your customers. And I will also, one thing that's really big in the data science world when it relates to business is customer relationship management. Mm-hmm. It's called CRM. You can Google CRM data. You can Google CRM software. There's software out there that will help you relate with your customers, that'll help you remember when the last time your customer ordered or what their favorite color is, or when it's their birthday. Like, we get all of that stuff from bigger companies. That's what it is. It's customer relationship management. It's an actual software system, that's going to manage your customers. It's like the brain of your customers.
Absolutely.
And it's really, really necessary because we don't know how to build relationships. We just want to take people money and we barely want to ask them how they doing. Well, if you really want to make money, you got to be out here, shaking hands and kissing babies almost.
Oh, man, shoot, shaking babies and kissing hands. Hey, that's what they're going to be doing if they ain't check their data. They're going to be shaking babies and kissing hands when it should have been the other way around. Now, and the CRM that I use for people, since she did bring it up, I use a CRM called Job Nimbus. And Job Nimbus is actually specifically tailored for contractors. But that was the first CRM that I was introduced to, and it allows me to customize it based off whatever industry, whatever business that I'm doing, because I do have multiple businesses. So that is very important, even as a sole proprietor. I would say especially as a sole proprietor, but also if you're managing a team of people, because usually with these CRMs, everybody can have their own unique login and they can, leave notes and keep up with not just the customer relationship, but making sure all of the spokes are turning in the right way in the right time.
Absolutely.
What's the name of your company?
The name of my company is Visions Global Consulting. Visions Global Consulting. And again, I started that in 2018, really out of almost necessity because I knew I would be an entrepreneur one day, but I wasn't sure it would be this quick, particularly since I was still in school and stuff. But as I was really, really helping people, and it kind of came backwards to me, I was kind of just helping people a little bit, and then they wanted to pay me, and I was like, okay. And it just kind of fell into it. And what I realized was the consultant I was getting, some of them about just structure and setup and just basic business stuff. I needed to do that as well, if I really, really saw myself doing it. So, it kind of came out of necessity. I was like, okay, I need to set something up. I have the entrepreneur spirit of just striking while the iron is hot. So I was like, okay, I really need to take advantage of this and set something up and look professional. And it's really just grown from there. And it's really, really helped me a lot. Right now, as I step more into the corporate spaces, I have some partnership deals, I'm looking at where, for instance, like my consulting company would handle. I'm trying to say as much as I can say because I'm actually about to be under NDA, and I don't want to break an NDA before I sign.
Don't break it. We want to keep your money
But-
good.
No, right? But what I can say is like offering for like a startup. It's a tech startup, so I will be kind of like their in-house business person, making sure the company is set up while they work on the technology and work on making sure the product is good before they go to like their series fundraising, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like they need somebody to handle the analytical while they work on the creative. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And that's really what I do for a lot of my clients. Like I'm in like nonprofit spaces and they're like, yeah, I just want to help people. Okay, I know you want to help people, but we got to get the paperwork right first, you know? So, or whether they're like in fashion, a couple of my clients are in fashion and I have salon owners, you know, just entrepreneurs like consulting kind of on a lifestyle brand type of thing. So I have a really, really diverse clientele and I've been able to work and learn from so many people. The biggest thing I've learned is strategies are strategies and they can work in any industry. And to give you guys one example of that, I had a salon owner who was heavily impacted by COVID and really trying to just get back on her feet after COVID and stuff. So we were working on a strategic plan. We were working on a strategic plan before COVID hit. This is one thing, had to adjust the strategic plan to be more COVID resistant. And it almost, and luckily for her, because she had, you know, paid me and treated me so well, her strategic plan ended up really being a recovery plan.
Wow.
You know, because in the middle of a strategic planning, COVID hit, and then we had to say, whoa, you know, she was in North Carolina where they had to shut down, city mandated, for months. So they had no choice. It wasn't like kind of how Jacksonville has been. A little while they could do like 25% capacity, something like that. No, they had to shut down completely. So anyway, but I was telling her to look at how, this is going to sound funny, but I was like, you know what? You need to go into a dentist office again. And she was like, I need to go into a dentist office. I'm like, you need to go into a dentist office, a high, like almost boutique style dentist office, because she wasn't getting customer experience right, you know. And I go to my dentist office. I'm greeted in a like at the front door. I go to the right. They got a Keurig free coffee out there. I go get up to the front counter. Do you need anything? No, I'm fine. You know, somebody's checking me in. Then somebody else walks me to my room where I'm going to get whatever service I'm there for. At the end, I always get something, which is like, you know, like your toothbrush or whatever. They write my next appointment on a card and give it to me. And I was trying to get her. I'm like, okay, you're in the salon space, but your customer experience is poor.
That's very interesting. I never got that correlation because really and truly, for most people who don't have who not dealing with an orthodontist, and I think orthodontists are the people that do braces. For most people, a dentist is a luxury.
yeah, it could be seen as a luxury. But think about this though. She's in a salon, you know, that caters to women. Some women see that as a luxury because there's plenty of women out here that do their hair themselves and say they can't afford a salon, you know. So in many spaces, she is considered in the luxury business. You see what I'm saying?
So since you brought up that analogy, let's run it out and we don't have to be talking specifically about the client that you're working with. We can use in general, right? Because there's a bunch of salons out there. So let's run this scenario for people, if you don't mind. So all right. So we already know. I wonder, should we work it backwards? Okay. So at least for me, it makes sense to work it backwards. So you get that card with your appointment on that. What would you say is synonymous for the salon owner that's the similar before that salon client gets out of there? What's synonymous to the dentist giving them that card with the next appointment?
Great question. First of all, for you to write their name or their appointment on a card, you had to have do something very key. Actually set up the next appointment. And you will be surprised how salon, or let's just take salon owners out of it because not all of them are behind the chair. But for our people behind the chair, our barbers, our stylists, even our nail techs, don't let nobody walk out of your seat or out of your chair or out without at least asking them, when would you like to come back again? I have available appointments coming up, but I'm booking fast. We call that a sale. That's asking for the sale. You know what I'm saying? Now, you just secure one sale. That's great. You got them in your chair this first time. But sometimes people focus on current money and they don't focus on next money. So for you to write their name down on an appointment, that means before that person left your shop that day, you got your next appointment set with them. They know dollar confirmed. You're ready to go. If you do that all day, that means you're not only working and cutting hair that day, but you're filling up your schedule for the next few weeks, the next month, whatever, at the same time.
Nice.
You know, and they had no really system for, you know, really doing that, because I'm like, most stylists are really good at, they sit there and they tell you how to take care of your hair. Okay, this is what you need to do. And I knew another young lady whose salon was doing really bad. And she was so focused on kind of being liked by the client that she really wasn't good at business. So she would say things like, "Oh, well, if you do this and stuff like that to your hair, you don't have to come back for like a month or 2 months." I'm like, you're not gonna make no money. Like, if you teach them how to do their hair themselves, like and some people come to you because they don't want to do it themselves. They like that moment of kind of like pampering, you know.
And there's actually a way to do that to where it actually brings them back. So all right, so boom. So they got that card. The equivalent to the dentist giving that next appointment is essentially the same, but most salon people don't be getting people locked in like that. And chances are, if you got them to write that on the card, you probably got their email address too, just so you can, you know, remind them. And if you got their email, you're probably also sending them hairdo of the week or video of the week, right? Okay, so let's take it a step back. All right, so right when you finish that dentist, you know, poking on your cavity, they give you that toothbrush and toothpaste. What would you say is synonymous that a salon owner can do that's equivalent and also, you know, not a big expense? Because we know that those dentists ain't paying that much for those toothbrushes and toothpastes, but they nice now. So what's something that you think is equivalent that a salon owner can do?
Yeah, absolutely. So it could be a mini bottle of oil, mini bottle of shampoo and conditioner with your logo branded on it. It could be a mini comb with with the name of your company branded on your address or whatever. You know, like mini, just little small boutique kind of items. And also a lot of salon owners also eventually have products on their own because it's another avenue, another income stream.
Yeah.
You can give out samples of a product you have coming up.
Absolutely. And when you buy those mini in samples in bulk, it's so inexpensive. So inexpensive. All right. So boom. All right. So we know the equivalent of the actual dentist coming in the room is the licensed stylist. So but before that dentist comes, we have the hygienist. And I guess the equivalent to that is the person that's probably, a lot of people have a person that's dedicated to washing hair in the salon. Yeah. So what are you recommending to your clients to train their hair washer to say specific things? Because I know my dental hygienist be bigging up the dentist before he get there. It's almost like hey man, I'm cleaning your teeth, but Dr. What's his name? He about to get you right. Is that something that you recommend to people, or how does that work?
I think it's building rapport, you know, and this is the thing. A lot of times as business owners, because we're so invested in the business, we are good at building rapport because we know what is at stake. So it's kind of like making sure your team understand what is at stake as well. So the rapport doesn't doesn't start when my client meets me or you meet the salon owner. The rapport starts as soon as their hand touches the door. You know, absolutely. Training your entire staff or whoever works for you to make sure they have the same spirit, to make sure they have the same enthusiasm. And really, they're there to build rapport. They're there to make sure, like you say, the customer is constantly understanding the value of the service they're going to get that day, whether it's how great the dentist or the salon owner or the stylist is. Also, you know, you want the client to feel good about themselves. One thing about dentists and salon owners, you could consider them both to be in the beauty industry. You know what I'm saying? Particularly depending on services, because people say your number one, you know, asset or your number one thing is your smile. Like we hear that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you can, but you know, I'm not gonna say that. I was about to say you really don't want to put lipstick on a broke down smile, but you can, but you don't want to.
Oh, no, I hear you. So, all right. So it seems like, because now I get the correlation with the salon, but I'm seeing that correlation everywhere. Would you say, regardless of what industry or person you want working with, when you see that they just can't get the customer experience, regardless of the industry, is the dentist office just the best and least expensive way to experience customer experience, good customer experience?
I mean, we could experience it, you know, at a restaurant as well. From think about when you say customer experience, what we're saying, guys, is how do you feel as soon as you touch the door, through your whole experience around that facility, wherever you at, a restaurant, wherever, till you walk out. You know what I'm saying? And remembering what industry you're in, because some of you may not have a very big standard on experience. Let's talk about some people that don't. Walmart and McDonald's.
Yeah, okay.
Their value based. Maybe like certain chains like Family Dollar, Dollar General, they're value based. They're not. That company has taken a stance to not put a very large amount of money into customer experience. That's not what they're about. They're about value. So if you're about value, the portion of this podcast is not for you. But if you're offering something that's more like that, you know, I use the dentist one because it's a universal experience that people have normally had at least once. So it's very easy as an example, because one thing as consultants, we're supposed to bring those big words, all of that dry language we give people off of the pages into real life. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
We're showing them, we're application people. We're showing them, because they can go get a business book and read it on their own. We're supposed to bring it to life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And put it in layman's terms a lot.
And it just really brought it to life for her, and she really understood it after that.
Oh, no, it's perfect, because it's making me, I'm still developing my website, and I'm thinking about what part of my website is the free toothbrush, what part of my website is the appointment card, what part of my website is the smile from the receptionist. What part of my website is the person that walks me into the dentist room, like where the actual action is going to happen? So that is a good analogy that you just gave a lot of people, to where I think they could use that in you know, not just physical customer service, but their website as well. Where's your toothbrush at? Where's the free toothbrush? Okay. And I think the synonymous of free toothbrush is giving them a free download of how to do this or how to do that, right? Or something, you know, related to your business. So
I agree.
Go ahead.
Now I was gonna say, don't forget about, like, this is slightly different strategy, but it's something I've really been looking into lately, and I'll say it's just
put us on game now.
One thing I've been looking at, I'll give two. One strategy is called upselling. So sometimes, you know, especially as African Americans, you know, our people we're really determined to always get our work, because we feel like from society with different racial issues, stuff like that, we don't always get our work. And sometimes it's systematic, you know, it's systemic. So we know that, we understand that. So sometimes we can get in overdrive with that with our businesses, and we charge people a lot at the beginning. You know, and even that whether it's that free download or it's that, okay, I'm going to give them something lower level that didn't really take me as much time to produce, because our time is money too. And I'll give that to them for maybe half the price. And now I got this person interested. This person understands the value that I'm worth, and I can upsell them on the next product. So if you give me a download for free or $10 and it's like the bomb, and now we're building a rapport. You're building a rapport with me as a customer. I don't mind paying maybe $50 for the next one. So upselling is important too. Some clients, when they get something for free or for $10 or customers or whatever, they always want to stay there. Don't think about that person as your customer. Your customer is going to be the person, that appreciated that $5 or $10 download, and they really see you as valuable, and now they're willing to pay more. So upselling is important. And another thing that having data on people helps you do, definitely Google business and churning. Churning, CHURNING, business and churning. Churning is kind of like, think about how they churn ice cream, and they're turning it over and they're turning and they're turning it, and they're picking up more liquid to try and form it into ice cream, and more is falling off at the same time. So look at a video of what churning is, and it'll make more sense. But it's like some businesses don't grow because you're losing just as many customers as you're gaining, like at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So what data helps you do is, again, just be more targeted, more focused. You don't know, not only do you need to know who buys on average the most, or who you do very, very good with, and what demographics are you just killing it in and you're doing great in. You also need to know the areas and the demographics that you suck in. And that's what the opposite side of data tells you. I do great with maybe, a millennial age, but I can't break. So you ever heard somebody say, I want to break into this other sector of the market?
Yep.
They're saying, I suck over here, but I want to be better over here. And I'm putting data and resources and everything I can to break into this sector. And some people do it in regions. Like, we know companies that are big in the north. We just don't buy it down here in the south. You see what I'm saying? Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some things I think about.
Absolutely. And I guess churning, I think, because the term churning, I get it. But, I think some of the people who listen to my podcast in the insurance industry, and churning is one of those words where we stay away from, because churning in insurance, churning is like you're not helping the client. You just selling them stuff just to sell them stuff that ain't necessarily beneficial to them. You just keep churning it around like they already got coverage, but then you give them another coverage to replace that cover, even though that. But I get what you're saying with the churning part, which it's
still negative in the way I'm saying it. It's not good. It's the same thing. It's like,
okay, got it.
Like you're not better off. If you gain as many clients as you lose all the time, you don't grow. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. I'm glad I reached for that clarification. Got it. So now I get it, because boom, you doing all that. And now the symbolism of the ice cream is making sense to me, because it's nothing new in the pot.
Mm-hmm.
It's just folding over the same stuff.
Exactly.
I got you. Amazing. Now, would you say what begets the other? Because you're also an executive pastor.
Okay, yes. Uh-huh.
So tell us about what your role is, and do you feel like one that also helps your business, or your business also helps this role? What would you say in that regard?
Okay, so I am the executive pastor at Horn of Salvation Ministries. I am considered the pastor of business and operations, ironically. So I help with training leaders, forming ministries. I oversee economic empowerment and outreach. So really, I got even more into nonprofits over the last maybe 3 or 4 years. So right now I sit on the board of 4 nonprofit organizations. So I'm definitely heavy in nonprofit as well. even though most churches are nonprofits too, but just to make that distinction, because every nonprofit is not religious based. So I would say definitely, even before I became a pastor, even before I really got, stronger in my walk with God, I would say, God has always been the center of where I know, my blessings and my gifts and all the things I do flow from. I've always felt that. So I would say, my walk with God has definitely impacted my business and made me better, because it's kind of like, not to get too religious, but it's like, you don't want to gain the whole world and lose your soul. So I definitely do what I do with a level of,
as they say in Game of Thrones, you don't want to rule over the ashes.
Rule over the ashes, exactly. So I definitely walk with a high level of like integrity than some people do. It's just stuff out here I'm just not gonna do. You know what I'm saying? Just period. And but in consulting, you don't have nothing if you don't have the trust of your clients. Because let me tell you something. I know products, services, and launches that are happening for my clients in 2022. They trust me. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So they trust me because I have integrity. And part of the reason I have integrity is because I feel like it's more to life than just this. Even though I'm on this earth to get everything that I can, I definitely feel like that higher power and that higher energy, and it could really just take you off on a higher positive energy to where, I just don't get in the mud over things. I don't fight over clients. I don't do that. Some of my clients are in the same industries. I have to walk a very high level of integrity there because it might be something, Randy, that you are doing that I know can help my client around the corner, but hey, they didn't pay me for that.
Mm-hmm.
So integrity matters, and you don't have to be a Christian to have integrity. That's not what I'm saying, but that's how I was really, really put on the path of just being a better person. You know what I'm saying? So, so I think they're definitely connected. Now, I'm not super, super religious, and I feel like religion is the rules and the regulations that people try and put on our walk with God. Everybody's walk with God is different. So, I love God. I serve people. I serve in ministry, but I'm not super religious. So I do have clients that don't know I'm a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's fine. I walk in spaces in nonprofit organizations, and I walk in spaces in research and economics and stuff where people don't necessarily know I'm a pastor. So, but they know I'm a good person. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what it is.
Oh yeah, I mean, the connection that I make. Based off your history in academia and, just you going to what's considered the highest level of education, is the topic. Spirituality is like the topic of a course, the subject, and religion is the syllabus.
Mm-hmm.
That's the type of connection I make. So now tell me this. So as a professor, what are some things that you notice from your successful students and some things that maybe the ones who flame out? What are some of the similarities that you've noticed?
I would say discipline. For my successful students, discipline, definitely. Discipline, and I hate to say it, but I don't know any way else to say it, but kind of courage. A lot of my successful students had, and it's going to sound like an oxymoron, but they had the courage to say when they didn't understand.
Ooh, that's not an oxymoron to me, but go ahead.
So they're that student that even if it's coming up to me after class is like, professor, like I'm struggling. I don't understand. Can I come by your office? Like, so what that also adds on is humility. You see what I'm saying? Like you have to humble yourself and have the courage to ask for help. Like I'm good at stuff now that people that it kind of blows their mind, but they don't see the moments I was in tutoring. They don't see the moments I was in my professor's office asking for help. Having the courage to say, I don't understand, So that's really big. Definitely the discipline, because some of these things are they're this like methodology. And again, like you have to practice some of these things that we want to do. Some people have to practice their pitch and how they address their customers and their clients. Some people have to practice confidence. Some people have to practice these things. So to be a good student, you have to get up every day. You got to come to class. You got to practice being active, a part of discussions. You might have to, actually practice the problems and stuff we're doing, but it's different ways that you have to show up, that you have to do over and over and over, to where now, if me and you were to go in the room and someone asked us what we thought, or asked the room what we thought, we would automatically say what we thought. When we were younger, we might not do that.
Mm-hmm.
But we practiced it. You see what I'm saying? So,
Oh yeah. Matter of fact, that kind of reminds me of something I said. A lot of people like to say once you get old, you don't got no filter, and I like to say you still got a filter. It's just dirty as hell, right?
Yeah, so you just grow up, and some of them it's support system too. It's people that some of my students lack accountability. They popped up, they went to a new state, there's nobody out there to kind of hold them accountable for their production or lack of production, productivity.
I think you just gave my people a lot.
I think so too.
Is there any last words that you want to share with the Entreprenudist audience?
I would say, remembering your journey is your own. Even a baby step is a step, and just creating the life for yourself that makes you happy to get up every morning. That's it.
And how can they get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me. I have 2 websites right now. So my research and my more economics website is aburgin.com. You can find all my research stuff on that website. And if you're interested in connecting with me on more of the business side, that's Visions Global Consulting. You can look us up on Facebook or Instagram at My Visions Global, or on the World Wide Web at myvisionsglobal.com.
And that's Visions with an S.
Visions with an S.
And that's Burgin, spelled Burgin. Thank you so much, PhD candidate. I'm going to vote for you. I'm going to make sure you register to vote for Audrieanna for PhD candidate in economics. She's going to be hitting the scene soon. When are you going to be debating?
I'm going to be defending my dissertation.
You ain't going to let me. He's like, hey, listen, we're going to stop playing. So when you going to be defending?
I'll be defending in spring 2021.
Absolutely. So everybody wish her luck and reach out to her if you want to ask her an educated question. And she's going to give you not just the educated guess, but she's going to show you the data to either confirm or deny her educated guess, being someone who's a business owner and someone who knows the economics of behaviors. Thank you so much.
Thank
Audrieanna.
you.
You're welcome.
Goodbye.
That was PhD candidate in economics, Audrieanna Burgin. And just so you know, I took up one of her tips that she gave. I got her to fill out my appointment card. She's already agreed to come on after she successfully defends herself to get that doctorate. But where Audrieanna's at this point in her life, in her PhD candidacy, as well as what she does as a research scientist, is defending her ideas. She'll soon be defending her ideas against that committee that she referenced. She also defends her ideas on a regular basis as a research scientist based off the data that her clients give her. What's the benefit of that? What's the benefit of measuring twice so you only have to cut once? Well, if you're talking about material, if you measure it twice so you only got to cut once, you save on material. Because I think we all remember that back in school when we was cutting that construction paper. I don't know why they called it construction paper. Do contractors use it? I don't know. It was multiple colors. It was thick. It had a little bit of a texture to it. What happened? How many times did you get to cutting and you mess up? So then you throw that construction paper away and you get to cutting again and you mess up again. You throw that construction paper away, but this time you more purposefully draw out what you're trying to cut. What happens when you don't have that many sheets of paper? You need to pay attention. And once you did all that you can do, bring in an expert. And some people bring an expert in at the beginning. I'm definitely one of those people. If I walk into a store and I have no idea where the product is that I'm looking for, I go straight to somebody and say, hey, where this is. And guess what? They take me straight there. I got to that product in a minute instead of searching around for 5 to 10 minutes. My time is valuable. Something else where I defended my ideas. My master bathroom sink had a slow drain. It wasn't always as slow as it got to where it looks like it almost was just sitting there. It built up over time. I'm one of those people who I do my own grooming. I shave my head. I shave my beard, trim it up. So all of that hair is falling into the sink, right? So what happens with somebody who does their hair grooming in the sink of a slow drain? That sink gets dirty fast. So what ends up happening is before I'm able to clean it the next time for at least a few days, it looks filthy. Not because I'm not cleaning it the way you typically should clean a sink. It's because the frequency in which I have to clean it has increased because I'm dealing with a slow drain. So here's a situation where I know I can go straight to someone with specialized knowledge, a plumber, and pay them first their service charge of at least $80+. And then depending on what they have to do, pay them for additional labor and materials. So I'm okay with that. But first, I said, let me defend my idea first. Let me check to see if all I have to do is unscrew this PVC pipe and get a clog out. And if I can't find a clog where I'm able to see, then that's when I'm going to spend the extra money for an expert. Guess what? After maybe 5 or 6 months of a slow drain, within 15 minutes, I had that PVC pipe unscrewed. I had a hanger up there pulling out whatever that stuff was, a buildup of hair and toothpaste snot, I guess. Plugged it back up, and now that sink runs as if it never had a problem before. I defended my idea. I said, hey, instead of me just assuming that this is a big issue that's going to require a lot of time and me paying for someone with specialized knowledge, a plumber, to come in here and fix it, let me see if it's just surface. And it was. Who else has a slow drain in their business? Who else has their business looking disheveled and dirty? Not because you're not putting in the effort, but because you haven't pulled off that PVC pipe, that P-trap, to see if the clog is as bad as you think. reach out to me. You can reach me on Instagram, Randolph CHFC. If you're looking for a life coach, I specialize in business coaching and entrepreneur coaching. You can reach out to me at rightlifecoach.com, RIGHTLIFECOACH.com. Thank you so much for listening. And just so you know, these episodes are dropping every week. I don't know if you noticed it. Every week you're going to hear a new episode of the Entreprenudist podcast with somebody who's doing big things in their field. Someone to help inspire you. Someone to show you that it exists. This is the Entreprenudist podcast.
Gotta make another couple $100,000 a month. Know I can do it, I just gotta stay in the hunt. Grab some snacks and some fluids and a couple hands of blunts. I play through the fourth quarter, I don't play in the punt. Gotta make another couple $100,000 a month. Watch me know I can do it, I just gotta stay in the hunt. Grab some snacks and some fluids and a couple hands of blunts. I play through the fourth quarter, I don't play in the punt. Watch me son. If words to cut, I got lots of swords. I'm old school like a harpsichord. I'm no fool, I'm with the gods and lords. A cold brew that's quality hops, of course. Just for the crews that's tired of mopping the floors. If you're still with the carrots and sticks, all of the merits and tricks, the clock punches and free lunches when you're coming on Sundays. I'm sorry, my dudes, this song ain't for you. Just keep on working till you're eating angel food. I'll come home and crank on the news. It's for the creeds with the LLCs, yeah. The board of directors that make the directors, yeah. The sole proprietors that pray for protection, and the ones with the solid business plans that's looking like cake to investors. You do a disservice when you wait for perfection. That picture doesn't exist, but doesn't dismiss. I insist as you miss it, you fix it, you get it. Wise words I once heard from a seasoned detective. Things a little different once you change your perspective. Look at me now, gotta make another couple $100,000 a month. Know I can do it, I just gotta stay in the hunt. Grab some snacks and some fluids and a couple hands of blunts. I play through the fourth quarter, I don't play in the punt. Watch me stun. Watch me stun.
You've just been listening to the Entreprenudist podcast, the place to hear real entrepreneurs and business owners bear it all. If you just arrived to the station, subscribe to the station.
School was too impatient with it, but they said I had to do it, my fate was finished. Man, that's nothing, I start a company and take percentage. Now I got 40 acres in the mule with inflation with it. Use all the hating, that's the fuel, and don't break till you finish. If you break, you ain't finished, just treat it